first time the monitors screamed, Aisha thought it was her heart breaking into sound. She lay on the narrow hospital bed with one hand cupped over the curve of her belly, the other gripping the sheet as if it were a lifeline. The smell of antiseptic clung to everything, sharp and clean, and the late afternoon light slanted through the blinds in pale stripes across the floor. She had been admitted for observation. Nothing dramatic, the doctor had said, just elevated blood pressure, a little swelling, a precaution. Her husband, Samir, had stepped out to take a call, promising he'd be back in a minute. That was when the woman appeared. She didn't look like a threat at first. Tall, carefully dressed, hair sleek as glass, heels clicking softly on the tiles. She paused in the doorway, eyes narrowing as they settled on Aisha's stomach, then slid up to her face. There was recognition there, too sharp to be coincidence. "So it's true," the woman said, her voice low and steady. "You are pregnant." Aisha frowned, confused and suddenly uneasy. "I think you have the wrong room." The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "No, I don't." Before Aisha could call out, the woman stepped inside and pushed the door closed behind her. The click of the latch echoed too loudly. The smile vanished, replaced by something raw and furious. Words spilled out in a rush. Accusations, insults, the claim that Aisha had stolen a life that wasn't hers to take. The name Samir fell from her lips like a curse. Understanding hit Aisha in fragments like broken glass. This was the other woman, the secret, the past, or so Aisha had believed. She tried to speak, to explain that she knew nothing of this, that Samir had sworn it was over long before he'd met her. But the woman wasn't listening. Hands shoved her shoulders back against the bed. Aisha cried out, pain flaring through her abdomen as panic surged. The monitors responded instantly, alarms shrilling. The woman leaned close, breath hot with anger. "You think you can replace me with this?" Footsteps pounded in the corridor. The door burst open. Nurses rushed in, pulling the woman away as she screamed, her composure cracking at last. Security followed, firm hands gripping her arms. Aisha was shaking, tears streaming silently as a doctor checked her vitals, murmuring reassurances that barely penetrated the fog of fear. Samir stood frozen in the doorway, face drained of color. When his eyes met Aisha's, guilt flooded them. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Later, when the room was quiet again and the monitors had settled into a steady rhythm, Aisha turned her face to the wall. Her body ached, but the deeper pain was something else entirely, a sense that the ground beneath her life had shifted, revealing a chasm she hadn't known was there. That night, as rain tapped softly against the window, Aisha lay awake replaying every moment of her marriage. Samir's late nights, his vague explanations, the way he sometimes seemed far away even when he held her. She had trusted him because she wanted to believe in the man he showed her, the gentle humor, the careful way he listened, the promise of a future he painted with such certainty. In the early hours of the morning, the door opened again. Aisha tensed, heart racing, but it was Samir alone this time. He moved slowly, as if approaching a wild animal, and sat in the chair beside her bed. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice hoarse. "I never meant for this to happen." She didn't answer. The silence stretched, heavy and brittle. "She was someone I knew before you," he continued. "It ended badly. I thought it was over. I didn't think she would." He stopped, shaking his head. "None of that matters. What matters is you and the baby." Aisha finally turned to face him. "You lied," she said quietly. "You let her believe there was still something between you." Samir swallowed. "I was wrong, I was weak. But I swear to you, Aisha, there is nothing now. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." She searched his face for the man she had married, wondering if he was still there. Outside, dawn crept in, pale and uncertain. The hospital insisted she stay another day. Family came and went, offering comfort and thinly veiled questions. Samir barely left her side, attentive to the point of desperation. Aisha watched him with a wary eye, unsure whether his devotion was born of love or fear of what he stood to lose. In the afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived. He didn't announce himself. He simply stepped into the room, his presence filling the space like a sudden change in pressure. He was in his late 50s, hair silver at the temples, posture straight despite the weight of years. His suit was understated but unmistakably expensive. His eyes, sharp and assessing, took in the scene in a heartbeat. Aisha felt a strange flicker of recognition, though she was certain she had never seen him before. Samir stood abruptly. "Sir." The man raised a hand, silencing him, and turned to Aisha. His gaze softened. "I'm sorry to disturb you," he said. "My name is Farid Khan." The name rang faintly in her mind, tugging at something she couldn't place. "I was informed there was an incident," Farid continued. "I wanted to make sure you and my grandchild are safe." The words landed like a physical blow. Aisha's breath caught. "You're what?" Farid glanced at Samir, who looked as though the floor might give way beneath him. "Samir hasn't told you," Farid said calmly. "I suspected as much." Tension crackled in the air. Nurses paused outside the door, sensing the shift but moving on. Aisha's thoughts raced, trying to assemble meaning from the fragments. "I am Samir's father," Farid said, "though we have not been close for many years." Samir stared at the floor. "I didn't want to drag you into this," he muttered. Farid's eyes hardened briefly, then softened again as he returned his attention to Aisha. "The woman who attacked you," he said, "is the daughter of a former associate. She has a history of instability. When I learned what she'd done, I came immediately." Aisha's heart hammered. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. There were layers to Samir's life she had never imagined. "I don't understand," she whispered. Farid pulled a chair closer and sat, his movements deliberate. "You deserve the truth," he said, "all of it." He spoke of a past marked by ambition and power, of choices made and consequences ignored. Samir had grown up in the shadow of a formidable father, rebelling in quiet ways, seeking distance from a world that felt suffocating. The relationship with the other woman had been tangled up in old obligations and expectations, never as simple as Samir had made it seem. "But that is over," Farid said firmly. "What matters now is the future, and that future includes you." Aisha listened, numb, anger and relief and fear colliding inside her. The revelation of Farid's identity changed the shape of everything. The attack hadn't been random, hadn't been merely the act of a jealous lover. It was entangled in histories she'd never been allowed to see. When Farid left, promising protection and support, the room felt strangely empty. Samir reached for Aisha's hand, hesitating as if afraid she might pull away. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, exhaustion threading her voice. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid you'd see me differently, afraid you'd leave." She closed her eyes, feeling the steady movement of the baby beneath her palm. "You don't get to decide what I can handle," she said. "You took that choice from me." Days passed. The hospital discharged her with instructions and concern etched into every nurse's face. At home, the walls felt closer, the silence louder. Samir moved through the house carefully, as though one wrong step might shatter what remained between them. News of the attack spread quietly, then more loudly. The other woman was charged. Farid's influence ensured there would be no sweeping things under the rug. For the first time since the incident, Aisha felt a measure of safety, but it came paired with a new unease about the power now circling her life. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in bruised purples and golds, Aisha stood by the window and made a decision. "I'm not leaving," she said without turning. "Not yet." Samir looked up from where he sat, hope and fear warring in his expression. "But things will change," she continued. "No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we do this, we do it honestly. And if we can't," she let the sentence trail off, heavy with possibility. He nodded, tears glinting in his eyes. "I'll do whatever you ask." The months that followed were not easy. Trust rebuilt slowly, like bone knitting after a break, stronger in time but never quite the same. Farid remained present, respectful of boundaries, offering help without imposing control. Aisha learned to navigate this expanded family with cautious grace, asserting herself when needed, refusing to be overshadowed. On a cool morning just before winter, labor began. The hospital room was different this time, brighter, louder, filled with purpose. Samir stayed by Aisha's side, his hand a constant anchor. Farid waited outside, packing like an expectant boy despite his composed exterior. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy cry cutting through the air, Aisha felt something inside her settle. The fear that had haunted her since the attack loosened its grip, replaced by a fierce, protective love. Later, as she held her daughter against her chest, Aisha looked at the faces around her. Samir, humbled and devoted. Farid, eyes shining with pride and something like redemption. The past had crashed violently into her present, threatening to tear it apart. But she had survived it. More than that, she had claimed her place within it. The woman who had attacked her had believed power lay in destruction, in taking what someone else cherished. She had been wrong. Aisha kissed her daughter's dark hair and whispered a promise, not just of safety, but of truth. Whatever legacy this child inherited, it would be tempered by honesty and strength. And no one, no matter who they were or where they came from, would ever again be allowed to threaten that.